Okay, the last topic that we're going to talk about in this class, as far as technical drawing techniques, is value. Value is the tonal range of light and dark. So up until this point, which is the majority of the class, we've been working with line. So we're going to step away from line. I don't want to see any more outlines, especially any dark outlines in your drawings from this point on. We only have a few value assignments, but when you do a heavy outline, that flattens out the drawing. So the way you're going to define the edges of the form now is just through shifts in tone, and we will look at that as we go on here today. Here's some key terms for you for value. Chiaroscuro, which is an Italian term meaning light and dark. Actually, we'll go through all these as we go, but we have chiaroscuro, light source, highlight, midtone, core shadow, reflected light, and cast shadow. Okay, so what I like to do when working with value is start with a simple value range. When you're rendering realistic form, you will end up with a complex value range through various blending and adding details with many tones of gray. But to start off any drawing, you can start with a simple value range. A 5-step value scale is handy. The white can be the white of your paper. If you're working on a toned paper, you can add white in with chalk or with a white pencil. And then so that's your step 1, being the white of the paper, the brightest white, and then black being step 5, and then your mid-tone gray as a step 3, a dark gray as a 4, a light gray as a 2, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps in this value scale. This complex value range has many more than 5, right? I'm not sure how many it has, but again, you just create that through blending techniques, and as you get into more details, things will just need a more complex value range. The majority of the time that you'll spend working with value will be in the middle of your value scale, adding the brightest highlights at the end, or leaving them as the white of the paper, right? And the darkest shadows at the very end. So most of it's going to be mid-tone grays. You want to kind of save your darkest darks for the end, and then you can really make them pop. It doesn't have to be at the very end, just sort of something to keep in mind. You don't want to be working your dark tones to a step 5 or a very dark gray, black tone, and then you realize that your entire drawing is too dark. So a lot of the time you're going to be spending in this in the middle of these value ranges. Okay, and when working with value, something to keep in mind is that every drawing has its own internal logic. So this drawing defines form in the face using a limited value range, right? So if we think about this complex value range, it's not ever going to get down to this blackest black here. The darkest dark tone in this pupil, which is the darkest part of this drawing, is still a pretty dark mid-tone gray, and then it goes all the way up until white, right? So this doesn't have a complete range of value in terms of white to black, but it's white to dark gray, and it's plenty to define the form, right? And you can tell it's all, like, everything's a little bit washed out for this style of drawing, and you can see even it kind of fades into the background here. But I do want to point out that there's no hard outline, right? So if we look at the edges of the face of this figure here, the only way that you can see where the edge of this cheek is, or where the shirt is, and see it kind of disappears into the background here, is where it's the shift in tone, right? So it's gray background and a lighter gray face. So if you're drawing your forms, any form, and you're like, oh, I can't see where this the light edge of this form ends and just the background begins, you can define the edge of the form through a shift in tone by darkening your background. Okay, so here's another drawing that it still uses a full range of value, right? We're getting all this definition in these figures' legs here, but a lot of a different approach compared to this drawing, right? A lot higher contrast, really, really dark darks, really light lights, an amount of mid-tone gray going on here, and a little bit in the mask too, but really much higher contrast than this previous example. And both of them define form. So just different approaches in style. Okay, and then here we have a realistically rendered drawing. So it uses the entire range of value. Anytime you want to draw something realistic, you would need to use the entire range of value. Realistic in terms of like more of a photographic image that you would see, or something you would see in real life, right? Like this is more stylized. It's still rendering realistic form, but more stylized here. This is more natural. So a lot of blending going on from lights to dark, creating realistic form. Okay, so, and this is our first term here, chiaroscuro, meaning light and dark. Continuous gradations of value to create the illusion of three-dimensional form in space or atmosphere.